I've prepared this document for you. So let me show you this document that you can use, right? So I prepare it step by step so that you can actually use that and then follow it. So let me show you over here. Okay, so you have this document. That I will load on your platform for you so that you can have access to, right? So there are steps that we need to do. So let's see what we have done so far. So we need to do the EDA part and then build a model, which we've done already, right? So we've done that part already. We've loaded our data set, we've performed the exploratory data analysis, and then we've built our model. All right, so the A part is done, right? So this A part where we need to do the EDA and then build our model, right? So that part is done. Now the next part that we need to consider here is the deployment part. That is the B part. Okay, so what we're going to do is to we're going to download this PyCharm IDE, right, that we're going to use. As I said earlier on, I mean, you are not restricted to use this, right? If you have any IDE that you're comfortable with, you can use it. Okay, in this particular exercise, we're going to use PyCharm, right? You're going to use PyCharm in doing this. So you can go to this link, right? This link over here, right? You can go to this link over here and then download it, right? So if you copy this link and then you go to your browser, right? You go to your browser, you can easily get it, right? So if you paste your link over here, right? Paste the link over here, so it will load this page for you, right? So if you're using Mac, I mean, you get the Mac version. If you're using Windows, you can also get it, right? Or Ubuntu or any other system, you can also get your version over here, right? So I advise you to download the community version, right, which is free and open source, right, and for pure Python development. So you can download that one. It works very fine, right? So make sure you download the community version. All right, so after that is done, right, let's go to the document and see the next step that we need to do. So we finished downloading our IDE that we're going to use. So follow the normal steps of installing the app, right? So you download any app from any other website. The same way you open the app and then you install it. So just the same way, just follow it and then install that. So after that is done, we need to set it up, right? So what we're going to do is to actually create a new folder, right? So you can create a new folder in your system, right? So let me show you what I mean by that. So over here, I'm going to create it on my desktop. You can create it anywhere. I mean, whether in your downloads folder or in your document folder or wherever you feel comfortable with, right? So I'm going to create a new folder and then I will name it as say, let me just say my project, maybe my underscore project, right? So I'll name it like that. Now what I'm going to do is that now you can open your PyCharm, right? You can open your PyCharm and then follow this process. Let me show you what I mean by that. Let's say this is my PyCharm. You for the first time, you not have this interface, right? So if you open it new, you can ignore this step, right? If you have it already, you can open it and then go to open, right? Go to open, and then the file that you just created. So in this case, it's my desktop. Then I can click on that. Then I can open it. Okay, I can open in a new window. All right, I can open a new window like this, right? But if you have this one open already, you can just do cd and then you navigate to the same folder by just typing the path of it. So in this case, maybe in my case, I have say users, then I have my beast. Then I'll go to desktop, right? I'll go to desktop, and I can change my directory just like this, and then go to my desktop, and then the specific folder is my underscore project, right? So that's my specific folder. So I can just navigate into my or change my directory to my new folder that I just created. I can just do it like this, right? Or if I don't want to do it like that, like I showed you, you can also click on file up here and then you click on open, right? And then it will open for you, right? You go to the desktop, you go to the specific folder, and then you open it. Okay, so you can do that. Now if you do that, you get to open this, you get to open a new interface like this. Now you can see that you are in my folder my project over here, right? If you see, we go to terminal over here, right? All right, you can see that you are in that folder over there, right? You can see that you are there. Okay, so that is done. That is done. Now let's go and see the next step that you're supposed to do, right? Let's see the next step that you're supposed to do. So the fourth step that you're supposed to do. So we are done with the third step. The fourth step that you're supposed to do is to create a virtual environment. So you can either do that, or just use your base environment. So in this case, I'm going to use my base environment, but you can use a virtual environment for that purpose, right? So if you see the one that I've created over here, right? So this is the project that we're going to do. You can see that I'm using my base environment, right? So you can see a base here, right? I'm using my base environment, but you can use you can create a virtual environment, right? You can create a virtual environment for that purpose, right? So if you can see that I have a base here. I mean, it's quite advisable to use the virtual environment. If you see what I've given here, right? If you can create the virtual environment to actually get rid of those conflicts in the library dependencies, right? So if you're using, say, if you're using Python say 3.7, and if you want to install some other packages or libraries in using that, right? So sometimes you might end up having a conflict in the library dependencies, right? So in order to get around that, you can create a virtual environment, right? You can create a virtual environment which is actually going to take care of that, right? So it's quite advisable to do that. But if your system is configured fine for you to actually do it without having any problem, then you can just use it, because in this case I'm using my base because my system is quite configured fine for me. So I can just use my base environment, but you can create a virtual environment. Now, if you don't know how to create it, don't worry. I have this link for you, which will actually take you through step by step. It's not anything. It's just some commands that you need to execute on your command line or your terminal, right? So if you go to your browser, right? If you go to your browser, you can just paste your link in there, right? Okay, so you can go here and then creating a virtual environment, right? So you can easily follow these steps and then do it. So on Windows, you just execute that command, right? So okay, so all these are just some simple commands that you can actually execute, and even installing the Flask, right? It's just there. I just use pip install Flask, right? And then after you've created your virtual environment, right? In this case, I'm not creating a virtual environment. I'm just going to use this. So let's see the next step. After that. So the B here is saying that you can work with your base environment, right? If you have the required libraries installed, right? And even if you don't have it, you can still install it, right? So specifically, we want to install Flask. So what we're going to do is to use pip install Flask. Okay. So after this is done, right? Whether you're going to create virtual environment or not, right? If you want to use your base environment, feel free to use it. But if you want to use create a virtual environment to do, you can just create it. So we're going to use pip install Flask. Okay. Then you just hit enter. That's all. It's going to install your Flask for you. So me, I have it already, right? I have already downloaded it. I've already installed it. So you can see that it's actually giving me requirements. It's actually giving me requirement already satisfied, right? Because I've already installed it. I already have it. So it's actually going to give me requirement already satisfied, right? So in your case, if you don't have it, it's actually going to install it for you. Okay, it's going to install it for you. So you can follow that step, and then you get that one done. All right, so let's see the next step that we need to do. So we have installed our Flask, right? So that one is done. Now the next thing that we can do here is, or if you still need more help, you can use this link, right, to do that. All right, now we need to create certain files, right? So these are the files that we're going to need. We're going to need a model.py file, right? We're going to need this. And then we're going to need a CSV file. We're going to need a template folder, right? A template folder. And then we're going to need app.file, right? So inside the template folder, we're going to have an HTML file, and then we're going to have a CSS file, right? So these are the things that we're going to need. Now let's see what these files are going to contain, right? Let's see what they are going to contain. So the model.py, right, is what is going to contain your model, right? So the model.py is going to contain all the code, right, that you're going to use to build the model, right? So let me actually show you what is inside this, right? Let me show you what is inside this. So let me show you the one that I've created already. So if you see the model.py, this is the model.py. Okay, this is what you can see. Let me push this down a little bit. Okay, now you can see that it's just like what we do in the Jupyter Notebook, right? We import the various libraries. So in here you can see that I'm importing pandas, right? Pandas as PD. Then I import numpy as np. Then I import sklen. Then from sklen.ensemble, I'm importing Exploratory regressor. Remember that when we built earlier on when we were working with the Google Collabs, right, we built several algorithms, right, and then we came up with the best one, right, which was Exploratory regressor. That was the one that was working perfectly for us. That was giving us 93%. Okay, so that's what we are using over here. Okay, that's what we are using over here because we already know the algorithm that is working perfectly for us. So that's basically what we are using over here. Okay, now we're also going to use the train test split, which is going to help us to split our data. So the same process that we do, right, is what we're going to use. We are using this to ignore some warnings. So remember that we saved this dataset Zomato underscore CSV, right? Remember that. Now let me go here and then show you what I meant by that. Okay, so you remember that after we did the exploratory data analysis, we came to save this model, right? We saved this model.csv, right? We've saved this, right? So that's the data set that we're using over here, right? That's the data set that we're using over here. Okay, now what you can do is that after you do this, right, after you do this exploratory data analysis in your Jupyter Notebook and you save this, right, you save this zomato.csv, right, wherever this file is, move it to the new folder that you've created, right? So we've created a new folder on our desktop, right? So on our desktop I have this new folder here. If I open it, I have nothing inside, right? So wherever your folder this data set that you saved, right, wherever it is, so this one might be maybe in your download folder or on your desktop or on your documents, right? So whatever this folder is, this data set is, right, whatever this data set is, move it into this folder, the new folder that you've created, right? Move it into that, right? Because now I have it to be empty. Move it into that. Okay, move it into that. So let me see if I have it anywhere else. I will just go and bring it, right? So I'm going to copy it from here, right? I'm going to copy it from here. Then I'm going to go into the new folder that I've created. Then I'll just paste it there. Okay, so now you see that I have one file, which is my .csv file, right, which is the data set that I'm going to use. Okay, so now that is done, right? So you see that I have the data set here. You need to make sure that that data set is present in the folder that you are working with, right? So you see that I have it over here, right? You see that I have it over here. So make sure that is present in the folder that you're going to use, right? That's the folder that you're working in, right? So you make sure that you that file is present, right? You put it there. Now after that, you just read that, right? You just read it. I mean, in the same way that we do in the Jupyter Notebook. You can do the same process, right? The same thing, splitting the data set, building the algorithm again, right? So over here, what is new over here is let me go a little bit down. It's this part that you don't need to forget, right? So you can see over here that I'm using this pickle, right? Pickle.dump, right? To save my file, right? I'm using pickle.dump. And don't forget this et_model is the model that you build, right? So et.model.fit. So after you've built your model, right, I'm going to save this file, right? I'm going to save this file using this open then the model name, right? So this is going to create this model.pickle for me, which is actually going to be a binary file, which is going to help me to be able to deploy this over the web, right? So I'm going to save this model.pickle over here, or .pkl, right? And then I'll load it, right? In order for it to be loaded, I'm using pickle.load over here. Then I use this open, right? as a binary file, right? As a reading binary file over here. Now that's basically what you do. If you do that, right, you're going to have this in the folder. It's going to create this model.pkl for you, right? Right. That's what you give, the name that you give over here. It's actually going to create this file for you. All right. That's what you want to do, right? This is going to create it. So make sure that you have it when you run it, right? When you run it. So over here, after you create everything, what you're going to do, right? After you've created this, right? Everything that you've done over here, right? Everything that you've done over here, which is the same process like we do in the Jupyter Notebook. So you create your algorithm, right? Here you're not doing any exploratory data analysis because we've already done that. We don't need to do that. We've done that. We have the data, the summary of the data that we want to use, right? The CSV file that we want to use, and then we've put it in the file that we want to use. And then over here, what we're going to use is, what we're going to do is to just build this exploratory regressor, because we know that is what is going to give us the best accuracy, right? So we just do that, and then we save our model, right? We generate this model.pkl. That is what we're going to use over the web, okay? And then you need to run this model.py. You need to run it, okay? So let me just show you over here. So what you're going to do, right? What you're going to do here is to create first create these files, right? First create these files. So all right, so that is the content that you'll be seeing, right? That's the content that you'll be seeing in the model.py, right? And then the CSV file is just the CSV file that I just showed you, right? So that is the CSV file that I said. Make sure that you put the CSV file in the new folder that you've created, right? So the CSV file is coming from the exploratory data analysis that we did in the Google Colapse, right? And you save it in your system. Now you move that file into the new file that you've created, right? You move it in there, okay? And then the template file, right? The template file is the file that is actually going to contain your HTML and then your CSS, right? It's going to contain your HTML and then your CSS. Okay, we will see how we're going to do it in the jiffy. And then you also have your app.py, right? So this is actually app.py, not app.y. Okay, we have this. So this is actually contains the Flask API, right? So that is going to contain the Flask API that will receive the restaurant details via a GUI, right? And then or API calls, right? And then we'll make the prediction of the restaurant rate, right? So we're going to see this in action. So there's no need to worry about it. So let's go ahead and then create these files, right? We're going to create this model.py. We already have our CSV file that we've moved into a folder, so that is done. We will create the template file and then the app.py. So let's go ahead and see how we're going to create this one by one, okay? Let's go ahead and then do it. So we're going to create this. So this is our new one that we have here. So in your system, this is what you'll be having. You don't have anything in here. Okay, you just installed Flask. You just did pip install Flask. That's the only thing you've done. Now go onto your my project here, right? My project that you've created, right? You just created this my project. That's where you are. So this is where you need to go. Okay, now you're going to right click on that. You're going to right click on that. So you right click on that, right? And then you see that you have new here. You create a new Python file, right? You create a new Python file. What we're doing is that you click on the my project, right? You right click on that, and then you click on Python file, right? You click on that. That is going to create a new Python file. So you can name this as app.py. Okay, that's the extension that we need, and that is why we are using this IDE. Okay, now that is done. You just press enter. That file is created. Okay, now the next file that we need to create. Now we've created this app.py. Now let's go and create this let's create this template, the template file over here, right? So for that purpose, what we're going to do is click on the same my project, right? My project, right click on that. What you're going to click is now directory, right? You're going to click on directory because it's another folder that you're creating. So click on that and then give it a name. So this is specifically is templates, right? Don't give it any other name, give it templates. Okay, that is done. Then you click on it again. You click on the my project again. You right click on that, and then you click on directory again, right? So what you're going to create over here is what is called static, right? In small static. Okay, specifically do that. Okay, so that is done. That is done. So let's see. We've done with the template and the things that we're going to. So we have app.py. We've done with that. So let's go and create model.py. So you click on this my project again. Right click on that. You create another Python file. Right. You create another Python file. Over here, you're going to name it as model.py. Okay. So that is done. This is what you need, and this is what we've done. Okay, now what you're going to do next is to create the files inside template and then static, right? Remember, template is going to contain another one, which is another file, which is going to be an HTML file, right? Okay, all right, an HTML file. So what you're going to do is to right click on the template, go to new, go to HTML file. Okay, click on that. And then you give it any name that you want. Okay, so in this case, for instance, the old one, we gave it if you see the template file, we gave it index.html. So you can just give it the name that you want. So right click on template, go to new, go to HTML file. Okay, then you can give it index.html. Okay. So done. That is done. So that will be created, or you just by default you'll be having this. Don't worry about that one, right? You'll be having that. And then in the static, right? In the static folder, you right click on that, you go to new, then you create new file, right? You create a new file. Then you can name it as style, right? You can name it as style.css over here. And that is also done. So that is actually going to give you your CSS file. Okay, that is going to give you your CSS file. So that is done. These are all the files that you need. So in summary, let's see what we've done so far. Let's see what we've done so far in summary. What we did is that we need some files, right? So we click on my file, my project, and then we first created a Python file, right? And then we gave it a name, app model. No, first we created app, right? So we created app over here. Right, we gave it a name, app.py, and then we right click on my project again, right? We did the same thing, my project again, and then we can create another Python file, and then we give it a name, model.py. Okay, and then before we did that, we also made sure that we already have our Zomato_df.csv file, right? Which is the CSV file that we're going to create. We made sure that we have that. Okay, so after that, what we did is that we right click on my project again, right? We did the same thing. We right click on that, and then we created directory, right? One directory for template, one directory for static. Okay, that's what we did. And then inside template, right, we right click on template. Okay, and then we created an HTML file inside the template, and inside static, right? Inside static, we created a new file, right? And then we name it as style.css. Okay, we name it as style.css. So basically that's what we've done so far, right? That's what we've done so far. So and I mean that's all the files that you need. If you've created it up to this point, you're good to go. Okay, that's all the files that you need.